Welcome to our live show.
Absolutely, Andre. In this video, we have two, not one, but two Ford F-150 all-electric Lightning pickups
Yes.
and two different trims.
Totally. This is a Lariat, which is kind of middle of the road, a little bit fancy. And we have the top of the line Platinum. And what we always like to do on live shows is kind of interact with you guys, right? You can ask us questions. We already have a couple of questions queued up. We have our producer Jay here. And we also want to tell you about some of our experiences, right? Because we have almost, 3,000 miles on this truck.
Yep.
And we have 4,000 miles on that press loan truck.
Well, we haven't driven 4,000.
No, but we have driven this truck almost 3,000 miles.
Yeah, so any questions you have about the Lightning, let us know. Now, Andre and my dad went out and bought this truck a couple of weeks ago, road tripped it home from Michigan, and then Ford actually loaned us this one for a couple of days to play around with, to kind of compare, and then I'm hoping in the near future we can get our hands on a Pro, which is kind of the affordable one too, because what we have here are two really pretty expensive trucks.
Yes.
Right, like this is 80, and how much is this one?
$93,000 for this guy. So there's almost $13,000 between them, and we can compare and contrast, right? Because first thing that really jumps out at me is kind of the gloss finishes on the front of this one.
Now I have a public service announcement.
What is that?
Before we get going, so as you've seen in some of our comment sections, we have a lot of kind of spam bots and spam impersonators.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, so there's been a big problem. It's not only on our channels, but it's across YouTube. But it's channels that are imitating our channel name, and it usually says, like, message me on Telegram.
And you won something.
It is not ours.
No.
That is not from us. So most of them are saying we're giving... most of them are saying that that account is giving away a free truck. We will never give away a free truck. We don't do free truck giveaways. We've never done free truck giveaways. We'll never ask you for money. We'll never message you on Telegram. We'll never email you unless you email us directly. So just want to make it very clear. If someone tells you to message them acting as us, don't. It's just a spam. Do not send any money to anybody. It's a huge problem. We're banning them as fast as we can get to them, but they're just popping up so quick.
They're bots, basically. It's kind of a scam, spam bots.
It's horrible. I mean, they could be people behind them, too, because I've read some of the messages people screenshot, and they're pretty elaborate. But we do not give away trucks in any capacity. Just want to make that very clear.
We have sold trucks for charity, like a Baby Yoda truck, but we use our auction sites to do that, TFLbids.com.
We're not just giving them away.
Well, no. No.
And most of the spam accounts, when people are falling for it, it's for like a 2018 Silverado. We do not own any 2018 Silverados to give away. Just want to make it blatantly clear.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, so let's talk about the trucks, Andre. What is the Lightning?
Well, the Lightning is basically an electrified F-150, which I think is a really cool part of it. It's a true truck, though. It's got a steel frame. The battery sits in the middle of the frame, basically. And we can start to walk around a little bit, actually, maybe from this angle. And so then there's a motor in the front. It's really hard to see, but basically it's between the front tires. There's another electric motor in the rear. The front suspension design is very similar to the current F-150 or any F-150 that's on the road and on sale right now. But the rear is very different because it's an independent rear suspension, which is very unique to the Lightning. And that's because, like I said, it has two electric motors. So here's the other thing we wanted to talk about is kind of value and price on these trucks. Technically, according to Ford, the smaller battery pack, Pro Work F-150 Lightning configuration starts just under $40,000. I don't know. Text us or let us know in the chat room. Let us know if you have that truck or if you've seen it, because it's very, very rare. Usually you'll have a couple of options. That price goes up a little bit. If you want an extended range battery, that price, that truck, the Pro Lightning, is only available to fleet buyers, and that could be about $50,000 to $53,000. So that's kind of where you're where it starts. This truck, like we said, about $80,000. This is $93,000. But lots of cool features. So we can show you the frunk, we can show you the beds. Actually, one great thing about it is that it has a standard F-150 bed. Isn't this cool?
Yeah, it is cool. Now, this is a much bigger bed. It's a more usable bed than what you'd find in, like, the Rivian, which is a big plus, right? This is, I think, going to be the most usable truck on the market for folks that need their truck to haul and to work for a living. Now, unfortunately, you can't get it in any other bed or cab configuration. So you've got the Super Crew and then the 5.5-foot bed. I would love if they did a single cab with a longer bed, or like a Super Crew, right? But or a what does Ford call their shorter ones?
Super cab.
Super cab.
Everything is super.
Everything's super. There's no non-supers.
Yeah.
But it's only in this long cab, short bed.
So there's a question like Dale was asking in the chat room. Tommy, were we shocked by the towing range that we just saw with a big camping trailer? I would say yes, I was surprised. I initially thought that something over 100 miles would be possible. Like, actually, real world range with a large camping trailer. But we didn't quite make 100 miles.
Yeah, that's right. I've got your comments pulled up here as well. So we had 6,000 pounds in travel trailer, toy hauler.
Very large, very tall.
Right.
Very nice.
Exactly. Yeah. And we decided just to start towing south on I-25, which is
a normal use case.
Yep, through Denver and then down toward Colorado Springs. And the truck had initially told us that after inputting the trailer, the range had gone from like 282 predicted to 160. And it said that we'd make it to Pueblo, which was 147 miles away with 6%. And then they started driving, and the truck was like, oh, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, we'll make it 115 miles to Colorado Springs. And we kept driving, and the truck was like, nope, you're not going to make that either. So eventually we're like, let's just make it to Castle Rock. We drove 86 miles. We had 9% left. But basically, 1 mile driven equaled 1% of battery.
And we were on stock tires, by the way. We were not on all-terrain tires.
I'd like to answer this question again, Andre, because the stream kind of cut out there. Did you talk about the gas generator toolbox?
We mentioned it. No official word, unless you heard anything recently.
Yeah, so Taker 610, and I'll say it again just because I think we'll have to cut out that laggy part of the stream. But basically what Ford patented was a drop-in toolbox with a generator built in, which could extend the range of your truck.
Like a range extender, yes.
Now, currently there's a few issues with that. You can't drive and charge at the same time, right? I see this comment all the time. Just stick a generator in the back, plug it in. These trucks won't allow you to actually move and charge at the same time. They're software limited.
But there could be made to.
There could be.
Like the BMW i3 with a range extender can do that.
And that's the only EV ever to come to market in the US with a range extender. Now the i3 has a little 2-cylinder, and it makes 34 horsepower, and it charges the battery if the battery's low. Mm-hmm. The issue with that is people forget that you can only go as fast as the generator can produce electricity.
Yes.
So basically, you're driving that car with 34 horsepower. Now, how much horsepower can you get out of a generator that fits in this space?
But I have a solution, Tommy. Well, I'm not a Ford engineer, but you know what the German tuning on that BMW i3 allows you to do? Is to start the generator sooner.
Yeah.
Right? So as soon as you drop below 75% or below 50%, there's a button in the system on the BMW where you can say range extender enable. Yeah. So you enable it, and it starts to kind of replenish the energy. So you're losing energy at a slower rate, but you're still moving at normal speed.
So the energy is like, rather than going like, it's going like
yes,
more slowly.
Because the range extender is continually providing additional boost. And Ram said that they want to put that in their Revolution trucks too.
Oh, interesting.
So they already kind of mentioned the range extender capability. So I think that's going to be important for these trucks because they're great vehicles. Like on the iGauntlet, the Lightning was amazing. Right?
Sure, right.
It regenerated a lot of energy on downhill, about 8% of the battery. On the uphill, it was really stable, really powerful. But the range is still one of the issues for towing. So yeah, we'll see.
Is there an option to put solar on the roof for overlanding and camping?
Well, these have panoramic roofs. Maybe we can show that.
Yeah.
Is there an option to? You could do whatever you want if you buy one of these.
But not from the factory, right?
No, not from the factory.
So solar panels are one of those things which sound amazing. And then when you actually get to looking at the usefulness of them, you quickly realize a few problems. So first of all,
they're slow to produce energy.
Yeah, you need a huge amount of solar power to produce energy at even a reasonable rate. I remember when the Nissan Leaf launched, it had a solar panel. It was about this big on the rear of the car. People were really excited about that, right? Yeah. New electric car, solar power. And that thing produced exactly enough energy to power a little fan to kind of cool the cabin.
Off, yeah.
Not an AC unit, but just this little fan to go, in the cabin, and then occasionally trickle into the 12-volt battery. And then Fisker did the same thing, right? They're like, wow, we'll put more solar panels on it. Same thing. I mean, it barely did anything to actually input any electricity. The biggest solar panel in a current production car is a Hyundai Sonata Hybrid. Has a battery or a solar panel which extends the whole roof. And on a perfectly bright sunny day, if you let it charge the whole day off solar, I think it gets like an additional 1 mile of pure electric driving, which is not a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, the truck has more surface area, but you would have to do like a tonneau cover full of, and still, like you said, the energy that those solar panels will provide for the vehicle will be very low. But you could run accessories maybe, charging your laptops and other devices.
So Nismo Mike says, tell me, while towing our camper, if you had trusted the truck's computer, would you have been stranded? Yes. So predicted 160 miles of range initially. We made it 100. So it was pretty far off. Now, I did
But it was
notice,
dynamically updating itself.
but not quick enough. And it wasn't being aggressive enough on the
So here's the thing.
predictions.
What Ford told everybody when they were launching the Lightning first, they said a lot of the data from the real world is going to be kind of uploaded into the cloud too. So not our names, hopefully. It's not going to say Tommy and Andre did this, but just kind of usage information would be uploaded into the cloud. So other drivers driving the similar routes, Tesla does this too, right? So the estimation will get better over time. So hopefully that's the case.
So can you tow with a Tesla and charge it at the same time? Nope, cannot do that either. Now, we also want to say that long distance towing is one aspect of the equation, but it isn't the full use case for this truck, right? A lot of folks are going to buy this and tow around town. A lot of folks are going to buy this and never tow at all, right?
Or tow short distances to the lake or something.
And for that, this thing is absolutely amazing, right? I think that we've determined from that video that, if you want to buy a camper and tow from here to Nebraska or further out east, right, it's not probably a great choice. But if you don't want to do that, if you're buying a truck for the bed capability, for the comfort, for the space, for the payload capacity, electric is a good option.
I agree. And it's also very fast, quick. 580 horsepower combined for the extended range. Both of these trucks are configured the same. You went to the drag strip and you killed a bunch of sports cars, not race cars.
Wipe the floor with some Mustangs, you betcha.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about these two trucks, right? So $10,000 price difference between these two. Cole, if you kind of want to show off the interior, I'll grab the light.
Should we power up? So sometimes we have issues when we go on the live show inside, but let me try it and see if it works, okay?
Well, I meant more the LED light here, Andre.
Well, no, but I want to show the screen.
Oh, yeah. So this is our Lariat.
Ooh, look at the fancy logos and screensaver.
That's nice. What's the size of that screen, Andre?
This is 15.5-inch vertical. This is very similar to what's available in the Mustang Mach-E. If I just power up, I can do that because it's all electric. There is no exhaust fumes that are going to affect us in the studio. So let it kind of ding. And I wanted to show you one other thing I found, a difference between this Lariat and then when we go into the Platinum, I can show you a little bit more there.
Andre, do you mind turning the lights to the off position so the screen brightens up? I think it's in the night mode.
Night mode or something.
There it goes. You got it.
Okay, so this is surround view cameras. So this truck, it feels familiar too. I mean, the shifter is in the middle. You have your wireless phone charger. You have your console, fairly large. The steering wheel feels familiar. Here's what I wanted to show you. It has 4 modes: normal, sport, off-road, and tow haul. You know what's funny, Tommy? It doesn't have an eco mode. You would think some other vehicles like the Rivian R1T have a kind of a economical setting. But Ford just kind of calls it normal.
But one thing you did notice, Andre, is that on the highway, just cruising, not towing, right, it does seem to prioritize the front motor.
Yeah.
And actually, the front and the rear motor have a different final drive ratio, which is kind of a fun piece of trivia there.
Yes. They have locking rear differential, so you can actually select it, especially in the off-road mode.
Check that out. Pretty cool.
And it selects the locking rear differential.
And that's a mechanical locker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not some electronic thing.
So yeah, this thing doesn't have a lot of ground clearance, about 8.9 inches, but it does have massive skid plates and quite a lot of off-road capability.
So one thing I'll say, other than the screen, I'm not convinced that this is an $80,000 interior.
Do you want to show them the door cards?
Yeah, it's just like, here, try to be a little creative about this. It's just a lot of kind of dark plastics everywhere. And they kind of start with premium material. So if you look here on the dash, like you got this kind of nice stitched material, but you only get an inch of it. And then it's back to kind of hard plastics. So they give you an inch of premium, and then it doesn't feel like an $80,000 interior. Now, of course, it feels like an $80,000 thing to drive with 775 pound-feet of torque, and it's silent. But like the seats, for example, it's just a very kind of primitive seat design, comfortable seat design, but nothing that you'd be like over the moon about.
Well, let's look at the nicer interior.
Yeah, so Cole, if you check this out, actually, you do get a more premium seat on the Platinum here. Sorry, I don't want to blind everybody. So you can see it's more of a, similar to like what you'd find in a Lincoln. Now this top bolster, I'll try to demonstrate this. You can actually adjust it forward and backward. The seat bolstering is a little bit different, and it also has a massage function. And this one even has the fold flat feature, so you can push a button and go into a nap mode. Now, as I hop on in here, let's show some of the differences on the inside. Not too much, actually. So you still have the same digital gauge cluster. Is that a different tone?
Yeah, it's a different tone. It goes boom, boom, boom.
That's nicer than doo-doo-doo. Doo-doo-doo. That's like a Mach-E tone. Did you notice that?
Kind of, yeah.
That's pretty cool. So here we have our gauge cluster, pretty similar design with our range and then power indicators on the left, speed on the right, and then trip information in the middle. 2 miles per kilowatt hour. It's pretty typical in these vehicles, by the way, when you're not towing. It's pretty similar to what we've been seeing. And then if you want to take a peek in the middle here, Cole, at that screen, one thing I really dislike about the Lightning is they make it very difficult for you to see your current state of charge. So what you have to do is you have to go into the truck, and then you have to go into settings. Come on. And then you have to go into charge, right? And now you can view your current percentage. Why don't they just stick that in the gauge cluster? Why do I have to go through a submenu and then a submenu to get to the charge?
That's a very good question.
It's one of my biggest frustrations with this truck.
But I did find another button other than the massaging seat button.
Okay.
That's different here in the Platinum.
All right, let me go into
So if you go under the truck and drive modes, look down below.
Oh, propulsion sound. What does that sound like, Andre? What is a propulsion?
Throw it in drive just really carefully.
You want me to drive through the wall here?
No. Ooh. Can you come over here?
Sounds like the intro to Interstellar.
I don't know if you can hear it. I've got my mic. So, and it actually, when you're driving, it kind of modulates that sound. So it does have these drive noises.
That's interesting, Andre. Now, apart from that, it's the kind of a similar interior. Like you get 2 inches on this of premium material, as you can see in them back to hard plastic. But like the woods are a little nicer. You get kind of this cool interlocking wood over here, which is nice. I do like the contrasting white stitching. The steering wheel feels a little more premium. You got kind of some nice detailing at the base of the steering wheel, which looks very fingerprinty. I don't like that too much. But yeah, you get some kind of chrome trim. And then both of these vehicles are equipped with BlueCruise. What's BlueCruise?
Yeah, there was a question about it in the chat room, so thank you guys for asking. BlueCruise is Ford's semi-autonomous driver assistance technology, so it's not, the driver cannot go to sleep or, just be driven, but on pre-mapped highways, about 200,000 miles of them, the driver paying attention, the truck will drive itself, and we'll be doing more testing on this. My first impression is it's okay. It's probably not the best kind of execution of that system. It does well, but it cannot tow in this BlueCruise mode. It does not do automated lane changes. So it's not quite there.
I said fuel gauge. I meant battery gauge.
Did you say fuel gauge?
Oh, 100%. Everybody's ripping me a new one on that one.
Electrons are kind of fuel.
25 years of saying it one way. It's hard to break that habit. So, Andre, let's talk about a question Bryant had, and a huge thank you to Bryant for the $10 super chat, which was really nice. So he says, will you be able to take both of the vehicles off-road and compare the tires? Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is not the factory tire on this vehicle. So BFG sent us this tire for our Alaska trip. This is what they call a trail terrain. So in the world of BF Goodrich, you've got like your heavy-duty use off-road tires like the KO2 and the mud terrain. Now, our big concern with that was range. So we went with this slightly less aggressive tire, but still pretty good tread blocks. And I'm curious to see how that'll do off-road.
Yeah, and the other thing we were fighting against as far as modifying our truck. Because we were tempted just to lift it into the sky, right, Tommy? Give it like a 2-inch lift, 4-inch lift, put bigger wheels and tires or smaller rim and larger tire. But the systems on these trucks, the Super Cruise, the camera systems are very precise, and it's hard to recalibrate them because this is a brand new truck just on the market, just 1 month. So this wheel is a 20-inch wheel. It's kind of an aero design. So if we change this tire size, made it larger, which we could have done, putting a leveling kit on the truck, first of all, it would decrease range further, but also, like the other systems wouldn't work quite as well. Like the adaptive cruise system, the BlueCruise system, the camera systems. The speedometer would be off. The trip estimator would be off. So it's going to be interesting to modify these trucks in the future.
Now, this vehicle, the Platinum, has the General Grabber HTS 60 and 22-inch wheel with this kind of polished look on it.
This is kind of funky over here, look.
This is one heck of a fancy wheel. I'm not sure this would be my first choice on a truck. You know, I'd like something a little smaller and then with a thicker sidewall. But yeah, we can compare the off-road worthiness of this too. I think that's a great idea.
Well, this is tough. This is a 22-inch wheel. There's not a lot of give in this tire.
Not a lot of
right,
give.
so if you hit it on any serious obstacle, rock, there's lots of rocks in the Rocky Mountains. So it could be kind of a dangerous situation.
James asked you a question, Andre.
Yeah.
Is this really a 3/4 ton with the high GVWR? Can we show the stickers?
Yes, let's look at stickers. I love looking at stickers. Thank you for the question. Come over here on this side. Yes, it is a heavy-duty truck. Oh, do we have a light?
Yeah, I got it. I'll
Sorry
go grab
about
it. Yep.
So if we look up here, Cole, gross vehicle weight rating is 8,550 pounds.
Holy moly.
So according to at least U.S. government, anything, thank you, it's up here, 85 in this upper corner, 8,550. Anything over 8,500 pounds, technically considered a 3/4 ton or heavy-duty vehicle. Pickup truck. The payload on this guy is 1,619, which is actually really good for a 4-wheel drive, 4-door crew cab luxury truck. That's good numbers. I'm glad they did that. But so it technically weighs how much? Like 7,000-ish pounds. So it's already a fairly heavy vehicle.
Now, we weighed our blue one at the CAT scale. I think it was 68 something.
Yes, and it was perfect 50-50 weight distribution. It was about 3,400 pounds on the rear axle and about 3,400 pounds on the front axle. So technically they are kind of pushing into that heavy-duty pickup territory, but I wouldn't call them really heavy-duty.
So Rocco asks, how many leaf springs are there?
Many leafs. No, actually none.
Yeah, quite the opposite
Zero.
of many. 0 leaf springs.
Can we show that? Can we sneak down here? Cole, if you can just go in the back here from this angle. Yes. So it actually has a coilover. It's basically a strut in the back here as well. Coil sprung, independent rear suspension. You can see the drive shaft. It's pretty beefy, actually. Big skid plates, electric motors, high voltage cables are in orange, kind of up above. And the battery sits ahead of this, of course, in the center of the vehicle. So, and actually, to drive these, pretty comfy, I think. Really stable, handles rough terrain, rough pavement, rough highways quite well.
Now, Herb asks, I don't need fast 0 to 60 times, lower the horsepower and torque, and give me more range. To be completely honest with you, Herb, I don't think that electric...
I agree.
Well, I don't know if electric motors work in that way. You know, right? To get a lot of horsepower out of a gas engine, you've got, in some cases, double the cylinders. You go from 4 to 8 cylinders, right? So you're pumping more fuel through the system. I think electric motors use electricity as they're needed. And going 70 miles an hour with a big motor versus 70 miles an hour with a small motor, I'm not super sure you're going to see that much of a difference in consumption.
But he kind of has a point.
Yeah, but if you look at like the highest ranged vehicles on the market, like the Lucid Air, which is touching 500 miles, right? It's got 1,200 horsepower. You know what I mean? Like it's
just about how you use the power.
It's not an econo box is the word I'm looking for.
Right. So it's more about how you're using the power. Of course, you're tempted. It's kind of like EcoBoost, right? If you're tempted to step on it, twin turbos, light up, you're using a lot of fuel, your range goes down. It's a similar thing with this. You want to accelerate fast, you're going to use a lot of electricity, But if you're nice with it, you can kind of stroll on your drive and be more efficient.
Can you drive in 1 feet of water? Yes.
1 feet?
1 foot. Sorry, 1 foot. Yes, you can drive in more than a foot of water. There's kind of a lot of misconceptions about how electric vehicles work, especially in regards to water, and I've talked to a lot of engineers about this, but they're incredibly sealed off, right? It's not like your old days with your RC cars where you drive it in a puddle and then the thing shorts out.
No.
These are designed to go through a foot of water.
Designed to carry people.
Right. I mean, and I've been in deep, deep, deep water with the Jeep Wrangler 4xe, which is in electric mode a plug-in hybrid, right, which is not that different, and they're very well engineered. I mean, it's hard to express how much work goes into protecting these batteries from road debris, from intrusion, from stuff off-road, right? Like, they are ridiculous. And I've talked to certain companies, and the extent they'll go through. Like, they'll plant suspension members on their test tracks. I'm not saying Ford does this, but I've talked to some. They'll plant like suspension members from trucks and jam them into the batteries at 70, 80 miles an hour to see if it'll puncture. And they're designed to be really strong.
And for example, one of our partners, Magna, right? So Magna International builds the battery enclosure for the F-150 Lightning and many components. And I saw the battery enclosure. It's all aluminum because that's kind of what Ford does. Some of the specifications had to do with aluminum battery basically enclosure. They did that. It was fully welded. So the battery box is welded everywhere, so it's really watertight. I mean, and crash resistant too. So a lot of technology goes into it.
So we've got a great question. What are the average electric costs for charging at home? Now, I can kind of give you our experience. So the total kilowatt hour capacity, right? You measure energy capacity in kilowatt hours, just like you measure gasoline in gallons. It's kind of the same thing. So this has a maximum of about 131 of those kilowatt hours. Now, unless you are a little crazy, you're not going to be driving it down to zero. Right.
Yeah. So or charging it all the way up to 100.
Yeah, maybe not even necessarily that, but let's say realistically you're going to use 100 kilowatt hours if you drive a lot, and I do mean a lot, right? Because this is 300 miles of range. So say you use 100 kilowatt hours and you plug it in at home. Well, you can do a simple bit of math. So you multiply that 100 kilowatt hours times your electricity cost, which at my house is about 13 cents per kilowatt hour. So $13, and that
to refuel the vehicle.
Oh yeah. And
by fuel, I mean electrons.
Yep, and that would get you about 244 miles. So at our electricity costs, 250 miles is going to be $13, $14. Now,
if you're in public...
Yeah, it depends, right?
Yes. If you're in public, things change. For example, we've been using a lot of EA stations because they're a little bit more convenient for where we were here in Colorado. Fast chargers, direct current, DC. And they vary between about 31 cents per kilowatt hour to about 43 cents, I believe, depending on if you're a member of the network or not. So price goes up, right? So that could be what, $30 to replenish?
Great point.
$40 to replenish, something like that.
And then, Cole, if we want to come over here, actually, we can see kind of a typical charging installation. Now, Ford will sell you a home charger, and we bought it, called the Charger Pro, right? And it's pretty expensive, but it can charge up to 80 amps. And 80 amps is insane. That's a huge amount of power. So if you multiply...
That's the current, basically. That's the kind of the speed of the flow.
Yeah,
right?
so you can do a little multiplication, right? So say you're at home, say your outlet's rated at like 240 volts times 80 amps. I mean, that's 19 kilowatts going into the battery. That would fully charge this in a few hours, right?
Or overnight at least, yeah.
Right. Now that's insane, right? 80 amps is ridiculous. Most of these installations are going to be like 32, 40 amps.
And this is 40, correct?
Yeah, so this box here is rated at 40. And then businesses actually run at a slightly lower voltage. So you can see that's 207 volts. So if we multiply 207 times 40, that gives us a rating of 8,280 watts.
Or 8.2.
8.2 kilowatts.
Yeah.
Now let's say you drive you use 100 kilowatt hours in your trip, which is a long trip. Once again, that's 250 miles. Divide that by 8.82. It's going to be about 11 hours to fully charge, or charge it from, what is that, 70-something%. From 30 to
truly overnight.
30 to 100.
Yeah.
Now, my dad and I have been driving the beans off of that blue truck, and even driving it a couple hundred miles in a day.
Yeah.
If we plug it in at 8 or 9 p.m., it'll be done by 3 or 4 a.m. typically. And we just have one of these little standard boxes.
So the cost, and usually in most places currently, overnight, some of the energy costs are a little bit lower, right? Because a lot of the energy is usually used during the day or up to about 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. So if you plug in after that, of course it varies, and just varies on where you live.
And the other thing I want to point out too is surge pricing, right? So here at our office, our electrical company says, hey, you can pull up to, I think it's 10 or 11 kilowatts as a company, which is quite a lot of power, right? We got 2 AC units in here, we got all the computers, we got this thing. If we installed one of those Ford Pro stations and started pulling 19, they would have a fit. And
well, the installation costs would go up.
Installation, but
and the surge pricing.
I mean, we could be charged thousands of dollars a month potentially, right, for pulling that much power.
Yeah.
Our company would be like, are you mining for gold in there? What are you doing, right? So that's something to consider too.
Or Bitcoin.
Okay, what are some of the things we dislike about the Lightning?
I don't like how it beeps in reverse. Can I demonstrate that?
You want to go back there?
Why does it have to beep? A lot of other vehicles don't beep in reverse.
Okay.
Can you demonstrate that?
Yep.
Can you hear that? So this is a $93,000 pickup truck. If I'm pulling up to like a nice restaurant and I'm trying to park, or a movie premiere, like I often do, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah. Which movies are you going to?
And if it beeps like this, I don't like that. Also, like Tommy was saying, for example, it's not very easy to see this. That's enough. It's not very easy to see the battery state of charge in percentage points.
Just making your point. Yep.
Also, the Ford, as far as we can tell, this Lightning, doesn't allow you to control the current the truck will draw. Right? Like Teslas do that.
On level 2.
On level 2.
Yeah.
This truck will just kind of try to draw as much current as possible, but sometimes, like in our office, we wouldn't control that, right?
Yep.
So that's not great.
So things I don't like, we have the Ford Pass app, and it's just a little clunky, right?
Do you want to show that?
Yeah, let me make sure it's not going to...
show our address and private credit card information and your mother's maiden name.
Yeah, so I mean, it shows you your pertinent information, but
yes.
I mean, it's just not quite as intuitive as I'd like it to be.
But look here.
Oh, let me make sure you're not going to show off anything. Yeah, you're good. Sorry.
It does have pretty good features.
Yeah.
So status, charging, some of our history. You can check your history. So it's okay. Also, you can do plug-in charge, right? You can set it up to where it's if in network.
We ran into an issue though where we had a charge limit set on the app of 90%, and I needed to fully charge it to 100 at a fast charger, and like the truck wouldn't let me go in the infotainment and change it, so it kept like erroring out at the EA station. And then you changed it in the app, but it didn't send it to the truck, and it was like a whole thing.
So we had to go to factory settings.
I had to reset it to factory, to charge up to 100% on a fast charger, which is a little bit extreme. Now, other things I don't like, as we talked about, the interior is not an $80,000 or $93,000 interior. I mean,
it doesn't quite feel that luxurious.
I was just in the GMC Denali Ultimate, that Sierra. I mean, and like that knurled wood and the pleated leather. I mean, it was just like, wow.
But it's the details, right? It's like things that you may not be, that are not obvious. Of course, these seats look really nice and feel great, right? But it's just little details I think could be tweaked a little bit more and just made a little bit nicer.
And then the last thing I don't like very much, and this is kind of personal preference, I'm not sure I love the design.
What is this unibrow thing?
No, especially like in the front where it's all flat, right? We have that long-term King Ranch Power Boost, a hybrid, and it's got those crisp headlights, and it's just such a good-looking truck. The way they've incorporated this, like these continuous lines, it just doesn't necessarily go with the rest of the body. It looks a little dopey to me in some angles. And then I don't think it's going to be a very good off-road truck because that front end is so low, right? The rear drive unit hangs pretty low. But apart from that, what a machine.
It's fun to drive, I would agree. We talked about range. We already discussed it. Towing range is not quite there. Off-roading, I absolutely agree, especially in the front. It's about 9 inches of clearance to the front nose, the bumper. So it's not Raptor levels
but
yet.
I mean, geez, I'm just pretty blown away by the rest of the truck. And especially the Pro Power onboard system, as well as the, that is not happy, as well as the vehicle-to-load functionality where you can use this to power your house. So, you can see that right there. If you consider the amount of onboard electricity on this truck, right, I think a Tesla Powerwall is between $10,000 and $13,000 for 10 kilowatt hours, right? That would mean to get this amount of energy in a Tesla Powerwall would be $130,000 or more. And for $80,000, you get a Tesla Powerwall and an entire truck attached to it.
Yes.
And you've got huge amounts of onboard power, up to like 11 kilowatts, which will run the vast majority of important stuff in your house, from washers and dryers to AC units to fridges, right? In a power outage, this thing could be a huge deal. And we're actually going to install that vehicle-to-load system up at the ranch here pretty shortly, so we can demonstrate that. So that's just amazing in itself in terms of value. And if you can get a Pro for, you're not going to find one for 40. 55,000. Realistic, right? Even better deal in terms of the onboard power capability.
And also, it's an F-150, like we started this live show with. If you have accessories on your older F-150 or another truck, tonneau covers will fit immediately. Maybe even some camper solutions will fit immediately. Truck toppers, accessories, ramps, you name it. Any number of accessories, it's already there. It's ready.
Yeah, so someone called me on my bluff here. If you were charging 100 kilowatt hours, is it 100% transferred to the battery? No, there are some losses.
Yes,
usually a few percent.
I want to mention this because when last time I went to the like a gas station or a diesel station, fuel did not spill over. As I did not lose any fuel while transferring it. But electricity is different, right? Because the cable can heat up. There's losses in the cable and the transmission system, so you are losing between like 2 and 5% sometimes.
So Andre, this live show is going really, really well. So we'll stick around for a few more minutes, ask a few more questions.
Yeah.
Finian. Hi, Tommy. Can you feel a difference on the road with the 4 motors in the Rivian compared to the 2 motors in the Ford? Now, I don't know if my butt is not calibrated enough.
Do you mean you're not a McLaren engineer?
I cannot tell a difference. Honestly, I know that the Rivian is supposed to offer torque vectoring, but to the average layman, and even to me who drives a lot of trucks, the Rivian feels quicker, right? It's more snappy when you hit the throttle.
So I think there is one difference, and it's not power related. I think it's suspension related, because Rivian has a very, very fancy system. It has air springs.
Yeah.
It has hydraulically interlinked dampers. And I spoke to the engineer. This is coming still on TFL EV and alltfl.com. And so my experience, I would say R1T, driving an R1T, especially on a twisty road, it just feels like a much smaller vehicle. This is still feeling like a fairly heavy kind of pickup truck.
Now, I am an 87-year-old man, and I much prefer the ride of this F-150 to the Rivian. This thing floats. I mean, it's crazy. If you've ever driven a first-gen Ford Raptor, it rides just like that. It's like, it's like...
And also really stable. Like, side to side.
Okay. In some of the turns, it's a little bit like Nathan in a waterbed. It does get like a little wobbly, right, when you're really pushing it. But Americans, all we do is drive to Walmarts and
long highways,
like for miles and miles and miles. That's all I do, at least. And this has got the best ride for that, right? And the crazy thing is even when you load it up with a trailer, independent rear suspension, soft springs, it doesn't sag that much.
No, we were surprised. You can check out our gauntlet test once again. We loaded it very heavy, 9,600 pounds we towed, which is near maximum on this truck. And the truck, like Tommy said, didn't squat too much. There was no trailer sway. This is a proper pickup.
Yeah, and actually, that video is yet to go up where we measure all the height. That's coming up. We actually compare this to the Ram LTI Gauntlet.
Well, this is why you're here and doing a live show, and this is why you're supporting us.
But I will say, because we don't hide information from you, unlike some other folks, it actually squatted less with the same trailer than that Ram 2500.
A heavy-duty truck. Yes, it squatted less.
Pretty crazy, and it rides 100 times better when it's unloaded.
Yes.
Okay, one other thing I want to point out too. This badging is very cool, and it's very pronounced on like the red. If you get our blue, it's pretty subtle, wouldn't you say, Andre?
Camouflaged?
Yeah, a little bit camouflaged. Do you have any sort of city efficiency test planned, Andre?
Not quite planned. I mean, we're doing more range testing, especially with these tires and trucks. So stay tuned for that. That's coming. Partially it's city. But my experience, especially with electric vehicles, when you lower the speed, let's say you're going 30 to 45 miles an hour around the city, the efficiency just skyrockets.
Yeah.
These vehicles really like regen braking, coming to a stop. If you're gentle on the accelerator, you can get really high efficiency. You know what we should do when we get back from Alaska, maybe? Like drive for 8 hours straight in the city
Yeah,
and get incredible range.
that sounds like a total you job. You'll love that. Just endless stoplights. Marco says, advantage to the Ford home charger to any other options out there. Why did TFL go with the Ford option to install? It's expensive, but the reason we went with it is because it can put energy in and it can suck energy out. And that's what makes it unique.
But there's another big reason. It was included in the price of a Lariat.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So for $81,000, and I don't know if it's because we were in the first batches of these trucks, but the $1,300 unit was included. Of course, what's not included is the installation cost,
Right.
which could be thousands of dollars. That's not included. But the actual box itself is included.
So NICAD, $10. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Here is to a successful time with your F-150 Lightning. We are looking for a truck, either Power Boost or Tundra Hybrid. We will be towing 9,000-pound trailer up large highway grades. Your thoughts, Power Boost or Tundra Hybrid?
Well, I want to do more testing because we towed with the Power Boost F-150 Hybrid many times on the iGauntlet. The Tundra Hybrid I have not put on the iGauntlet yet because we haven't had the truck to test yet. I would say the Tundra, just driving the hybrid Tundra around, it's a little bit smoother in a lot of situations. You know, stop and go. I think Toyota just really fine-tuned that hybrid system. They're really good at hybrids. They fine-tuned this one also very nicely. Very smooth, very powerful. But the Tundra is heavy. Like the Tundra weighs, the TRD Pro we had weighed about 6,200 pounds.
Drives nice, though. Other thing, too, and this is the deal breaker for me, is the Tundra doesn't have the Pro Power onboard system.
No.
Such a missed opportunity, right? 7K worth of power on that Ford.
And I asked Toyota people, and they said basically at the time they were designing the Tundra Hybrid, it was not cost effective basically to include that capability. But I think really, just because of that, I think the Ford takes it.
So Jason Diaz, $10. And I can't answer this one, Andre. Did you have to pull media strings to get yours, or any advice for those of us with pre-orders to get one sooner? We did not, actually. Andre was just incredibly quick with his little finger, refreshing that page when the order banks opened. And it's also worth noting, right? I mean, we weren't a Wave 1 build. I think there's a few hundred that were built before ours.
Our VIN is about 320 something.
Now, advice to get one sooner? Not really. I mean, it's just one of those things where...
It's tough because dealership to dealership, it can be different. I heard some horror stories of dealers canceling people's orders, upcharging, market adjustments, and on and on and on. It was very hard. I did reserve this Lightning when it was making its debut. So that's why we were in one of the first ones.
One other thing I want to point out, too, is this is one of the things we pride ourselves on, is we're very transparent about how much we pay for everything. And I want to make that super clear. I mean, some other outlets, they don't do that. And I always find that to be kind of seedy. Like, what are you trying to hide, right? Like, your job is to review the truck, and the huge part of reviewing the truck is how much you paid for it. So it's a huge deal that we tell you exactly how much we paid for it. So we didn't get any discounts under MSRP. We did pay exactly MSRP, which we feel very thankful for, because it could have been much more than that. But
$80,000, like $700 was the MSRP.
Yeah, so we have no issues talking about receipts. And if your outlet you're watching doesn't do that, I'd kind of question that a little bit. So big deal about that. And yeah, as we talked about, this red one is just a loaner from Ford. So this does not belong to us.
Correct.
But yeah,
I think one Lightning is enough, at least for us.
Do you guys think the Pro Power could run an AC unit on a decent-sized trailer, 50 amp, no need for generators?
I was taking an Uber to the airport one day, and my kind Uber driver was an electrician. And we discussed this on my Uber ride. And he said that there's kits you can buy for your camping trailers or some other utility trailers that do a soft start on the AC compressor. So usually the issue is if you have a big AC unit on your camper, when you turn it on, everything is on, the fan, the compressor, a lot of draw happens at the same time, and that can kind of overpower the system. If you install a soft start, so it like comes on in stages, it could be okay, actually.
So some testing we've done, and we've done it both with the hybrid, right, as well as the Lightning,
Yes.
is we've charged an electric car off of it
While moving, while towing it.
while towing. And that
Yes.
is a really good test because an electric car is going to max out those inverters and just hold it at max, right? It's like the brutal like torture test. Now, as you mentioned, it's not going to just like surge it with 11 kilowatts. And you have to reset it. It's going to build into it.
Yeah.
But as long as you build into it, we had no issue holding it 7,200 watts for hours.
Yeah, check out our video. You can just look it up. F-150 hybrid charging a Chevy Spark. The Chevy Spark was on a trailer. We were towing it 90 miles and charging it while towing it. So if that's not a torture test for an inverter, I don't know what is.
Yeah, so Finian, any update on recharging plans for AMPS Alaska? So producer Jay has been working like heck behind the scenes on that. And yeah, it's actually looking like things are really coming together. So throughout Canada, there's a couple spots where we can fast charge. We got a campground secured, which is totally on board with us doing it. And then north of Fairbanks on the Dalton Highway, the Ice Road Truckers Highway. I mean, it's nothing, but they've been working really hard, and we're probably going to pay out the wazoo a little bit to convince some of these industrial facilities to let us charge at their spots. Oh, Jay says no. They're being pretty cool about it. That's free, he even mentioned. Wow, what a deal. So it's going pretty well.
Yeah, and we're doing it. We're doing it in stages. So I'm doing kind of the first leg. I'm going up to Seattle. Then Jay and David and Roman and Cole are going to take over and go all the way. So we're doing it in stages. It's going to be exciting.
$10 Canadian from Nostalgic Northerner. Thank you so much. Have loved your show for years. Would love to ask, what was each of your first vehicles, and what were you four gentlemen doing before TFL? Secondly, will the plugins cost a lot to install for these? What do you think?
Wow, this is like a multi-part question.
Yeah, well, it was nice he donated, though.
Yes. So I went to school. I was a software developer. I used to work at Sun Microsystems and Oracle as a kind of database modeling and designer. I met Roman randomly 11 years ago. The rest is you could see on YouTube. I've been working at TFL for about 9 years.
And Andre only spoke Russian at first?
I did, yeah. There was a bit where I was a Russian mechanic.
Crazy Russian mechanic.
But I had my first vehicle was a 1981 VW Quantum wagon,
Wow.
front-wheel drive only, and it's a car you will never find again. I think they all rusted into the ground. It was a manual. I loved it. I drove it. The first day I could get my license, I went to the driving test. It was. Then I had a few trucks. I had a Duramax diesel, Chevy, and etc. What was your first car?
Well, so I want to say my dad started this whole gig in 2009, and he went to school for broadcast journalism at Northwestern. Before this, he was actually a journalist on Ironman Triathlon.
Yes.
He went by the terminology Iron Dumpling, which is just my favorite thing in the whole world. Fun fact, TFL used to stand for the first lemming, because he had that domain, and then he shortened it to TFL, and then he came up with the fast links. That's
You will not hear this anywhere else.
Only
by the
the
way.
731 people watching that will ever know that.
Yes, so please don't tell anybody.
And then, he had this idea for some crazy website or something. I don't understand the full story. But, so he started doing this, and then before this, I was a baby. So,
right.
Anyway, my dad's first car was a Honda CBCC. My first car was technically my grandfather's '78 Lincoln Continental, and then
I remember that.
And then I had a Mini, actually, a used Mini.
And you've been hooked on Minis ever since.
Yeah, it's a problem.
So
yeah,
there's a problem.
At least they're easy to park.
And you're hooked on Jeeps too.
WW says, I knew you would say you were a baby before this. Yeah, I actually shot our very first video in middle school, and then my dad's like, "All right, kid, you're going to edit for me in the summer." And
is that still out there?
Yeah, it was last year, actually. Don't you know?
Oh, you were in middle school last year? Wow.
It wasn't a lotta. All right, Andre, I think that'll probably do it for now.
It was not a lotta. A lotta was,
Oh, we got to answer this question. This is a good question. Hugh says, is Ford producing a plug-in hybrid F-150? That's a really good idea.
As far as we know, no.
But they should.
They should. So there's a lot of talk about this, and Nathan and I were actually discussing it in our podcast that's going to publish this week, because we thought, who is going to be the first to do a plug-in pickup truck? And according to Nathan and I, we were kind of arguing about this. We thought it could be either a Hyundai Santa Cruz, Ford Maverick potentially, or there's another like a Tundra Prime.
Aren't you forgetting an obvious one? I mean, there's already there's a Wrangler 4xe. Why couldn't there be a Gladiator?
Oh, that was Nathan's thing. A Gladiator plug-in.
Yeah, 4xe.
Yes.
I think that'd be pretty easy.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the plug-in hybrid's a great idea. The issue is these are pretty big and inefficient designs, so you kind of need a lot of electricity to go even 30, 40, 50 miles, right? You're going to need a huge battery. But my ideal choice, right? Imagine a 50 kilowatt-hour battery with a usable range of like, let's say, 50 to 60 miles, and then under the hood, that 3-liter Duramax straight 6. That would be perfect. I would freaking love that.
So would you like sandwich an electric motor?
Yeah, you could
somehow into the system?
You could do like a transmission electric motor, like a lot of the plug-in hybrids do. I mean, ideally, the one thing that diesels are good at is holding a constant RPM for days and running efficiently. Why not do like a Chevy Volt system where you have
There's another super chat.
Oh, another super chat where you have it run on electricity and then have it recharge off of a diesel. I think that would be really, really smart. Chris C, $20, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm getting the Nacho Supreme at Taco Bell tonight, guy. This is awesome. Great content. I have a Lyric debut edition on order. Can't wait to join the electric revolution.
We have several Lyric videos either published or publishing soon, right?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
My dad just drove that, and he really, really likes it. People want to see tug of wars. We can do tug of wars.
Yeah, we can do more. So once again, thank you for being with us in this live show. There's one other problem I see with the plug-in hybrid pickup truck. It's cost. Because, like you were saying, Tommy, turbo diesel engines are great, electric motors are great, batteries are great, trucks are great. But when you combine all 4 of those, diesel, electric, battery, truck,
it's going to be 9 tons.
The cost and the weight is going to be tremendous. So there's a challenge to this, and that's why I think we haven't seen one. So it's going to be challenging.
Another comment from Nathan Comer. Are you able to use the HVAC and infotainment systems while charging a hotel mode of sorts? Yes, absolutely. So $5 from Nathan. Huge thank you.
Also AC.
Pretty cool, actually.
AC?
Yeah, so I was on the Electrify America station, and the way these trucks work, right, is they should peak about 150 kilowatts, but depending on your charger station and the amp output, it can be like 170. But the higher you charge, the slower they charge. So I was like charging at over 90%. I was pulling like 20-something. It was pretty slow because I was trying to full charge. And it was pulling 20 kilowatts according to the station. And then when you turn on the AC, it jumps up to like 22. You can see it on the station.
Oh, so you're actually powering your cabin system.
Right, so it's not really costing you any more in terms of like charge times because it's your battery's only limiting itself to so much energy, and then the AC and the other stuff on top of that is a little extra. Other thing worth noting, which is a common misconception about EVs, dude, they really don't use a lot of power to do AC, radio, 110 outlets. It's such a minimal power draw compared to driving.
It's moving 7,000 pounds. That's where the energy
$10. Wow, I'm going to get the Nacho Double Supreme here, Andre.
What about Gordita or something?
From Dr. Detroit, big Bronco guy here. How long do you see the ICE platform lasting?
So I know a lot of people are kind of worried about this. I would say if you're looking at heavy-duty pickups, like F-250s, Ram 2500s and 3500s and Chevys and GMCs, I think those will be ICE-powered for at least a decade. That's my call.
That's it?
At least a decade.
I think so a lot of these manufacturers are talking about phasing out ICE engines in 2030. I think that's way too optimistic.
I think so. That's why I'm saying at least 10 years of more diesel power in big trucks.
I'm going to double that. Yeah, I think, if we see manufacturers go all electric by 2040, I think that's pretty ambitious. And the other thing I will say, there are 2 things which I think we're going to see the death of in the near future. V8s, right? V8s I think are going away. We're seeing it. It's just like it's the end. Right, the end is near for V8.
Well, and actually, it's a great end.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Well,
that did not come out correctly.
Oh man, now all 700 people are going to leave.
No. What I'm saying is, it's the golden age of the V8, right? The TRXs, the Raptor R is coming, the Escalade V. This is amazing engines.
But don't you kind of feel like this is the last gasp? Like it's like.
Well, yeah. So look at what's happening. The next Tacoma truck is rumored to be only 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
The Ranger is already only 4-cylinder.
Look, you can kind of see it in the air. We get a lot of emails like, please review the 5-liter V8 F-150s. They won't send them to us, right? Whenever we ask for F-150s, we request 5 liters, but they always show up as EcoBoosts, right?
Yes.
And that's the way things are going. And then the other thing, which I think is near death, like on its doorstep, is actually solid rear axles in light-duty trucks. I mean, we saw the switch to independent on the Bronco. People lost their mind. It turned out to be great. Saw the switch to independent on the back of this thing. Kind of got worried about towing.
Well, the Bronco, the real Bronco is not. It's not independent
on the front. Remember?
Oh, yes.
Because the Wrangler's solid and solid.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, you're not going to be able to tow with an independent. This thing at 10,000 pounds towed
Tows wonderfully.
Beautifully.
Yes.
So I think you get a lot of advantages with independent over solid axles.
Or coils, more coils.
Oh yeah, leaf springs should have died with the Romans, but I think those are still somehow kicking around in certain trucks. Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, this was a huge amount of fun.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on this show. We'll have more content, and like we said, internal combustion is going to stay, especially in heavier vehicles, for a very long time.
And towing rigs.
Towing rigs, et cetera, et cetera. Some vehicles it lends itself to, maybe smaller pickups, maybe compact pickups, and it just I think is going to be a combination of multiple technologies.
Yep.
Right? It's not going to be one technology or the other.
Totally agree. And as always, don't click on those scams. It's not us.
Yes.
We don't give away free trucks.
Right.
We don't use Telegram.
Don't give people money just because they emailed you.
Yeah, we don't use WhatsApp. Please.
Not telegrams, no telegrams.
Please don't fall into the scam there.
Yeah.
We're deleting them, but these folks are relentless. So we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah, thank you very much.